Welcome. We are the hosts of the Creative Rebels podcast.
A podcast to help you find happiness and fulfillment in a creative career.
This series of videos we're calling Creative Thinking, and it's where we are going to be directly answering your questions.
Whether you're a freelancer, creative professional, or you're just getting started, we're here to help.
There's literally never been a better time in history to make a career from being creative. So many people are going to tell you that you can't do it, but we're here to tell you that you definitely can.
Welcome back, Rebels.
Oh, look at you looking straight into the camera, you professional.
Are you going to do it?
Right. Super awkward. Yeah, hi. Welcome back. Another week, another episode, and we're going to do another session that we haven't named yet.
Yeah, I was literally about to say we need to come up with a name for this.
Yeah.
We'll come up with that next week.
Yes. We've chosen 3 questions this week that all kind of link together in the similar sort of theme. So our first question is basically around the pressure of keeping up on social media, like going online and seeing how busy everyone else is and then kind of thinking, I'm not doing enough and sort of panicking about it.
Yeah, that's a hard one, isn't it? Because obviously, like Instagram, which I suppose is what they're referring to, is...
I mean, it could be LinkedIn, it could be TikTok. It's like all of these platforms, people are producing lots of content for them.
Like YouTube as well, I suppose. Yeah, it's hard.
Well, I think one thing that I've been thinking of a lot recently is that something Poppy Chancellor said in her episode, and she was talking about like feeding the beast of Instagram, and how, in fact, it was the quote that you that you selected that we sort of put out to promote the episode, and she's saying in that she'd written down make image for Instagram, and then she was like, this is ridiculous, make an image for yourself and put it on Instagram. So I think there's definitely something to that, like document, don't create, like make work for yourself and share it. And I think, I mean, we certainly, like, this is a bonus episode. The reason we're doing this bonus episode is because it got to the stage where so many people were like kind of half complaining that they weren't getting enough free content from us, that we sort of felt pressure of like, we did feel pressure to make more content.
Yeah.
We know every piece of content you put out is a flag in the ground. So the more content you produce, the more chance there is for someone to discover that piece of content. So if we put this out on LinkedIn and it gets shared and someone new sees it, then that brings them in. And there's double the chance if we put out 2 videos a week as there is if we just put 1 video out.
Yeah, and I suppose it's really hard when you look at someone like Gary Vee, who's got a team of people who are putting out like, I want to say they put out like 100 pieces of content a week or something. I can't remember. I saw a stat recently that was like, it was at least like 15 a day. And I suppose when you look at people like that who are putting out so much content,
and he says he's not doing enough.
Yes.
Yeah.
How does that make you feel when you're a smaller creator? And you think, well, he's saying 15 isn't enough, but I can only put out 1.
Yeah.
Like it's a really hard one. I think it's all about not doing too much for yourself that just makes you absolutely stressed out. It's like doing what you can do that's to a good quality. And that's what I say to people is like, especially when it's about posting online and stuff, like post as often as you can create good content for. Don't feel like there's an absolute need to just churn out content just for the sake of it. Yeah. Like you've got to enjoy it as well. So if you can enjoy putting out 1 piece of content a day, do that. If you only enjoy putting out 1 a week, then do that, or learn to like doing it more.
Yeah, because I think if you like doing it, so this is a random example, but I've got a friend who, and I so rarely go on Facebook. I go on Facebook maybe once every 6 months, but every time I go on, she's a content machine, and she's just posting pictures of her kids, what she's been doing that week. Like her and her kids go on a lot of holidays with her husband, who's my mate, and they like, and she documents the whole thing.
Yeah,
she doesn't realize that she's doing what like a lot of professional creators are doing, because it's just for a very small circle, which is her friends and family. But because she loves it,
there's so much to take away from that. Like the fact that she loves doing it, so she's making loads of content. The fact that she's doing it really regularly is probably quite good content, and the fact she's doing it for a niche. It's like
she has an engaged audience who are like, oh, I wonder what the twins are up to, like, and tuning in. It's mad.
I think like there's different ways you can take that in terms of like how great it is for like running a business. Like if you can find something that you love as much as your kids, then
because she doesn't feel pressure to keep up.
Yeah,
she's a content machine, but she loves what she's doing.
Yeah, that's crazy, isn't it? And because there's no like, I don't imagine there's like a battle between mums of like who's put up the most pictures
I
recently.
think there is.
Do you reckon?
I think there is. Yeah.
whose kid's the cutest? I
Yeah,
imagine
yeah.
the battle probably is. But the more you love it, like the easier it is, I suppose.
Yeah, I guess that's why when we sat down and we were like, look, these people are asking like, oh, are you going to be doing any more episodes?
Yeah.
And we didn't sit down and go, oh, we've got to do more episodes.
Yeah.
We were like, yeah, well, I guess we could fit that in
Yeah.
around running 4 other businesses.
Yeah. But the thing is, like, I really enjoy doing this. Like,
Yeah.
this is great. Like, we actually help people. Like, the kind of my reason for getting up in the morning is doing this podcast and helping people. And so, like, if someone says, can you make more? If I can do more, like, yeah, I'd love to.
Yeah, and I guess that's why we call it a bonus episode, because it's like,
Bonus for us and it's bonus for you.
sure. I was going to say more because like we're not promising that you're going to get this every Wednesday.
Yeah.
It's like it is a bonus, so enjoy it as a bonus. But I mean, maybe that'll change. Maybe we will. But so what I'm trying to say is that we're not feeling pressure to put this out because we're enjoying doing it and we're loving the feedback that we're getting from you guys. So
So what would you say to someone who is in that situation where their rivals, I suppose, around them are putting out way more content and they're like, shit, I can't keep up?
So first thing is I don't worry about the competition. I wouldn't look at what they're doing. I just focus on yourself and focus on creating the best content that you can make because that's all you're capable
Yeah.
of. And then rather than just responding in the moment and thinking, oh crap, I haven't uploaded to Instagram and just like quickly doing something or whatever the platform is, have a specific time in the day where that's your social media time.
Yeah.
And it's important. I think you should block it off and you should say, I'm going to do an hour of Twitter in the morning. I'm going to do an hour of Facebook during my lunchtime, and I'm going to do an hour of LinkedIn at night, or Instagram or whatever. But have those times where that's your social media time because
Yeah. And I think, so to jump in, I think for that social media time as well, that needs to be content creating time for that social media as well, not just being sat on the platform. Because a lot of people will just be like, okay, cool, it's Instagram time. I'm going to spend an hour on Instagram and just be on Instagram for an hour and not really produce anything that's important. Whereas it's like, if you like with anything, it's all about creating good content, and that good content needs a lot of time putting in to make it. It's like to give yourself like an hour or whatever on Instagram. If that needs to be out of that hour, half an hour needs to be posting and engaging with things straight after you've posted. So then you've only got half an hour before that to create content, which isn't a lot of time. I think you really need to balance out where that time is being used and how much time you allocate to content creating. I think that comes down to being really smart with how you produce content as well. Like instead of just producing like one thing for this, one thing for this, one thing for this, create one big quality piece of content that you can redistribute to different places. So if you create, say, a video, for example, you could maybe take a snippet of that, put it on LinkedIn, and then take a quote from that, put it on Twitter, and like take small different pieces from your main substance and then like spread those over, rather than trying to create 20 different pieces for every single platform. Create one really, really good piece of content that all of them can feed to, but you tease it out to different platforms based on kind of what appeals to them. So if you've got something that you're like, okay, well, I might do a bit more of a funny thing and like a funny meme around this, and you want to put on Instagram to make it like a fun visual thing, but then you've got like a more serious angle that you want to take on LinkedIn, like just use the same piece of content, but just spread it out in different ways.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if you do that, then you will definitely feel the pressure dropping, because I think pressure comes from panic and confusion and sort of running around like a headless chicken. But once you've got a clear list that you can tick off and you can just go methodically through, and whether that's daily or hourly, like however many pieces of content you're producing, but make sure that you're producing enough to grow and be successful, but not too much that you're going to lose your mind. And just do it in a really methodical way, like Adam just suggested.
And I think what you said as well about not looking at what everyone else is doing is really important, because that's only going to stress you out at the end of the day. All you've got to do is create as much good content as you can do.
That leads us on to our next question from Steve Mack, who was asking us a question about feeling pressure from parents or loved ones, and in the sense of like they're telling him to do not what he wants to be doing, what they believe is the right path. It's a tricky one, isn't it?
It's a tricky one, especially like for me, I've never really had that. My parents have always been very supportive in whatever I've done. But I know when we started our business that your parents weren't too thrilled, were they?
Well, my mum listens to this podcast, so I've got to be
Okay.
careful with what I say. Hi, mum, love you. But I think that when you say to your parents, hey, mum, I'm going to be a professional graffiti artist, when that's not a job that exists. And I'm going to paint on walls for a living. And I mean, because she used to get cross with me when she'd go driving, particularly. So me and Paul Elliott, who previous guest on the podcast, me and him used to paint graffiti in our younger days. And one of our favourite places to paint was the motorway, specifically the road to Gatwick Airport, because we could actually get there from our houses really easily. And that patch of motorway, my mum knew what my tag was, she knew what Paul's tag was, and when they would drive to the airport, my mum would see our work because the reason that we chose the motorway is because there's no other graffiti there. So if you paint there, it really stands out. Because we were painting track sides and stuff, but you're just lost in a sea of other graffiti. So we were like, oh, if we want people, and like every time we met a new artist, they go, oh, you guys have got that piece on the side going towards Gatwick Airport. Like everyone always noticed our stuff. But including in those people was my mum. And she just used to be like, what are you doing with your life? I'm going on to the airport on holiday and I see your graffiti. And she was just not into it. And then I'm telling her, oh, I think this could be a job and I think I'm going to get paid by big companies to do this.
Yeah, especially when there's no precedent for that.
No precedent for it. It sounds absolutely wacky. Yeah. And maybe it was wacky.
It sounds like the idea that a 5-year-old would have when they just say to their mum, like, Mum, I'm going to paint on walls all day.
Yeah.
And make money from it.
Yeah. But I was right. So so it wasn't that crazy after all. But so I think as creatives, a lot of us we have these big ideas and we have these visions of what could be. And certainly now in 2019, I think like whatever you're thinking of feels more realistic than it did in 2010.
Yeah.
Because now the precedent is do whatever you want. And like if you're smart about it, you can turn it into a thing.
I think these days as well, like we're in such a different climate to what our parents were in when they were younger. Like the internet is a thing. And people can make money on the internet, which wasn't possible before. You'd have a job for life. Like you'd leave school at 16, 18 after college or something, go and get a job, and that's what you would do for the rest of your life. Whereas today, it's much more of a multi-hyphenate society where people are doing lots of different things, and people have got side projects where they're earning money from. Which is Chinese to someone who's grown up with get a job, like go to school, graduate, get good grades, get a job, stay in that one job, get promoted, retire at 60 and have a happy retirement. And that's the American dream. That's the UK dream. Like that's what people were expected to do. I think the older generation especially doesn't realize how you make money from it, because like quite often I've spoke to older people before, told them about the podcast, and they're like, well, how do you make money from it? Because in their idea, it's two people sat in a room talking to each other with a microphone and putting it somewhere. Like, how can you make money from that? There's no transaction happening. And it's just a completely different world to them. They don't realize this kind of thing.
And you can only really give advice based on your experiences, can't
absolutely.
you? I mean, I couldn't advise a gymnast how to do the best because I have no experience in it.
And I think all parents want the best for their kids. So it's like any parents who are...
Most parents, yeah.
Yeah, most parents. And so if you're kind of thinking, oh, they just don't know, they don't like me, or they're being nasty or something, they're not. They're generally thinking... Like,
so I think there's two ways that can go. There's first the way you're saying, where it comes from a place of love and they're worried that you're trying something that is not safe.
Yeah.
That you're taking a big risk.
Yeah.
And that the way that they know, because they've done it themselves, is the way to do it. They think that's the way you should go.
Yeah.
And they care about you, and they're concerned that you're saying I'm going to be a poet, and they're like, well, that's not a proper job.
Yeah.
So do what I did.
Mm-hmm.
There's those kinds of parents. But then there's also, sadly, the parents who are like misery loves company and very negative, and maybe they never made anything of themselves, they never put themselves out there, so they don't want that for you. I've certainly got a female friend whose mum is very like resentful of her being like, because she's now older and she's seeing like a young girl with like all of this kind of future ahead of her, and feels like she doesn't have that. And I sacrificed so much to have you, and now like there's that kind of weird, and I think that's the other type of parenting where there's negative put downs because they don't want you to succeed, because it maybe shines a light on something that's bothering them.
Yeah. And I feel like the way you deal with both of those things is exactly the same way. Like, it's just kind of having faith in your belief that you can do it, and then trying to explain to them and educate them about what you're doing, because most of the time they just won't understand. So if you say, you want to become a YouTuber, and they were like, well, that's ridiculous. And then you explained, well, this is how people make money on YouTube in giving them examples. So this person started 6 months ago, they're now on this many subscribers, and they're earning this from doing this kind of brand deals. They've got an audience like this, and just breaking it down for them to understand, because it's like, you've personally came to that decision yourself of this is a realistic thing that's possible. So just convince them that it is.
Yeah, and meet them with empathy, understand what their position is, and if it's something that you guys always fight on and it always comes up and everyone gets really angry about it, then try not to bring it up, and that might mean that you have to move out. I think it's a great luxury if you can still be living with your parents when you're setting up something for yourself and you don't have to worry about rent. That's a huge advantage. But if you're in an environment where it would almost be worse trying to set something up where you've got constant negativity towards that thing that you are trying to set up. So maybe get yourself out of the situation. Because I know a lot of people who have much better relationships with their parents after they leave the house.
I suppose another option, instead of if you're in a stage where you can't physically move out, is prove them wrong. Like, go and get a job that they want you to do if you have to. Like, go and work something, and then in your side, like, have a side hustle, have a side project that every evening you come home and work on, every weekend you work on, and you show them that you can do it and you can earn money from that. And then after doing that for a while, you can be like, look, this is exactly what I've done. This is how much I've earned. This is the following I've gathered. These are the opportunities that are coming to me, and I've done this in my spare time. I'm going to go and do this full time now. And I imagine then, if you've shown them all that evidence, they'll be supportive.
If you do actually make it a success, they'll absolutely be on board. Like, my mum and dad are like my biggest fans, and every time I'm on TV, they DVR it, and like they just love it, and they're really proud, and they're proud that we're doing something that's totally different, and then we've made it a success.
I actually know a few people who've gone and started on their own, and now their parents work for them.
Whoa,
which is crazy. But it's like they're there to, like, they've shown them that they can do it, and then they've now got the support of the parents in the day-to-day workplace.
Yeah, you only have one life to live, and you can't live it for other people. You've got to live it for yourself, and you can love your parents and still do your own thing, even if it's the opposite of what they want you to do. You have to do you, otherwise you won't be happy. We hope you enjoyed that episode. If you have a question, just leave it in the comments below.
If you got any value from this episode, please leave it a thumbs up. And if you want to watch more content from us, please subscribe.
And if you know someone who might get value from this episode, please share it with them.
See ya.